Hello guys, Logical Viking here. In this video I'm going to analyze the debate between Destiny and alebrelle. If you don't know, alebrelle is a social justice warrior and he believes things such that women are stronger or equal like in strength to men. And that there's like the only stuff like that. And Destiny is a liberal on Twitch. He debates people. Um, yeah, in this debate, they're debating whether women are stronger than men. So let's get into it.
All right, Mr. Alibro.
Hello, Mr.
Or-
Stephen. How
yeah.
are you?
Calling each other Mister, very cordial. Okay.
I'm doing great. Okay. I'm listening to you. I'm watching
Okay.
what you massacred my boy.
Yeah, he didn't bring very good takes, did he?
So what's happened is alebrelle debated someone on like whether or not men are stronger than women or something like that. So no, Destiny, he disagrees with that obviously, right? So he's going to try to debate alebrelle about this.
I don't know if his takes were good or bad, but I know that with 4 or 5 of you guys screaming over him the whole time, it was
Okay. I'm not concerned about his comfort, but what's up? What's on your mind?
The SJW is not concerned about his comfort. How ironic, isn't it?
This is the only topic that I feel like I can do off the cuff with you, so you got me.
All right, we'll do it off the cuff. Do you really believe that it's insane to say that men as an aggregate are stronger than women?
Okay, what did he just say? Do you believe that men as an aggregate are stronger than women? Let's hear his response.
No, there were so many things to deal with. Here's the
Sure.
science on that.
Okay.
Is that the
No, so he does this thing where he says no, but he like does like a quick like but. Oh, he's gonna say something really interesting right now. Just pay attention.
there is not even a full standard deviation in the difference between the is it mean or median? I don't.
There is not even a full standard deviation in difference, right? So he is saying there is a difference, but he's like kind of phrasing it as there's not even, as if even like under a standard deviation is small. Like if you guys don't know, like a standard deviation is pretty big. Yeah, so let's see.
Math isn't my strong suit.
Oh yeah, of course.
But there is a small difference in the center point of the strength and overall physical ability of men and women.
Do you genuinely believe that? You think that there is a negligible difference between the average aggregate strength of men versus women?
I would say it is quantifiable and statistically different, but only barely statistically different.
Oh, he's saying it's barely any difference by just putting in words like statistics and standard deviation. He thinks he knows what he's talking about. This is gonna be so fun to analyze. Let's see how he ends off his argument.
Why are women so scared of sexual encounters with men then? Since on an aggregate,
Oh yeah, this is the funny part about SJWs, you know. They always want to have it both ways. They want men to be these like really dangerous creatures that like women needs to be protected from, but they are also like equally as strong as men. Like it's just impossible. It's just stupid. Like these people like this guy, they don't know anything about what they're talking about. It's just ridiculous, isn't it? Well, yeah, let's see how he continues with this ridiculous verbiage.
it seems like generally they should be able to defend themselves against men. Like
because, as brought up in that discussion, most sports are separated on weight classes. Once we account for
oh no,
weight,
I mean like in real life. I mean like why
Right.
are women in real
Most
life more afraid
women-
of men?
most women are shorter and smaller than most men.
Oh, okay. Most women are smaller and shorter. Okay.
Okay, so shorter and smaller generally implies less strength as well. Yeah?
Yes, if you want to talk about the full total population of them, yes.
Here it comes. Alebrelle's got such like a hard time, like just admitting that like women are like weak. You like ask him, do you think on average men are stronger than women? And he's like, yeah, but he's like, yeah, okay, but like, then, yeah, he can't like say it. He has such a hard time just admitting this. It's really crazy with these people. Like, look at this guy. Like, what does he even look like? Yeah, this guy, I don't know. Yeah, let's continue. Let's see what happens.
So when I say aggregate, so I very clearly, I'll say this again, I'm not trying to get you.
Sure.
I very clearly said as an aggregate, men are stronger than women. That seems to be pretty non-debatable.
Aggregate. Also, I have issue with this terminology, like aggregate. I can understand what he tries to mean, but aggregate, like, let's look up the definition of this, actually. Oh, okay. I'm using Tor, so like I can't access a lot of websites because of yeah, they block it because they don't want you to use Tor because
If you want, we can dig into powerlifting stats, or we can look at any specific athletic event.
Sure, absolutely.
For some track event, yeah. So, like for instance, like in a male NBA versus female NBA, it will be a slaughter. In male tennis versus female tennis, it has already been a slaughter. In almost any. Okay. So, and then in the general population, men as an aggregate tend to be far stronger than women on an aggregate. It's not just like a margin of
extreme. The extremity of difference in both the bottom and end of the curve on male physical and mental ability, I do believe, is... I need to fucking mute my alerts. 1 second. Christ, that was loud in my ear. The edges of the bell curves, there's a larger deviation from the mean in the male population than there is in the female population. The curve for females is much tighter than it is for that of men. But their raw physical ability, as I understand it, is relatively similar, but there is a statistical difference between the two.
Okay, so I know this from weightlifting because that's what I know best, but I'm 100% positive that we can go to literally any sport ever, and my arguments will most likely hold true. But I'll use weightlifting because it's what I'm most familiar with. So, for instance, if I were to take
because of the extremes,
no, hold on.
End up being way better than the best.
That's not what I'm talking about. Okay.
So here, Destiny just completely misunderstands Alebrelle's argument. So let me try to explain this clearly as I can. So what Alebrelle is saying is that when it comes to like athletic performance, it usually follows like a normal distribution that looks kind of like this, right? So let's say this is the athletic performance of men, right? So you see the tails here. They have like a certain thickness. So like the more to the right, the better athletic performance, right? So like the people who compete in the NBA, for example, those are gonna be the people like that's here. This is just like the 1% of the 1% of the 1% of the population, And then you have like females. So they have like a shifted distribution, but it is also thinner, right? So if you look at like the extremes, let's say like the distributions were equal. Let's say it was like this, like the mean was the same, but so here according to Destiny, like the aggregate is the same, but if you look at who's gonna compete in the sports, those are the top athletes. Those are gonna be the ones at the end of the tail. These people here. So here you see that looking at the extremes is not representative of like the aggregate. So here the aggregate is the same, right? It's the same mean, and on average it's gonna be the same. So like using this argument that just because top powerlifters are better at like powerlifting and stuff, that doesn't mean the aggregate is for males is going to be higher. Obviously at this, right? Obviously like the real distribution would look something like this, right? Like women are here and like males are here, so yeah. So Destiny just misunderstood. Like his argument about powerlifters is just completely irrelevant and doesn't. It's not on the point. So here alebrelle is actually one-upping Destiny, you know. So okay, let's continue to see if they figure it out.
And this point is very fantastical. Okay, it hurts your argument to even pretend because everybody knows that this is not true. So let's look at something like, okay, a bench press. Okay, a 100
Yeah. So again, just because the top powerlifters are better, the top powerlifters of men are better than the top powerlifters of women, that does not mean that the aggregate of men are stronger than the aggregate of women. It just means that the distribution of athletic performance is it is more distributed. It's not as the distribution isn't as thin, you know. So
48-pound male with, I think, about 1 year of training would be expected to bench press about 230 pounds. A 148-pound male with 1 to 2 years of training should probably be able to bench about 230 pounds. A 148-pound female should be able to bench in the same amount of time about 135 pounds. That is not a slight difference in strength. That is a massive difference in strength. A man who weighs 148 pounds with no training whatsoever can be expected to bench like 160 to 170, like potentially. I don't know if this class form maybe isn't completely trained, but I could look at like untrained numbers, and for a woman at 148 pounds, it's almost half. Like there is significant differences between the power differences in groups of people, even untrained or slightly trained groups of people.
Sure. But number one, this wasn't my point. I didn't try to make this point in this argument. This was Mike's point. But number two, you would also probably be willing to contend, or concede rather, that lifting, raw muscle building power and ability is probably one of the things that men excel at faster than women in across physical prowess altogether, right?
No.
So here alebrelle is like kind of, he's pointing to the fact that he's made this argument before. He's trying to say that, okay, men and women are good at different things, and just strength is just one of the things that men are better at. But yeah, there's a lot of sports that women are better at as well, and he'll actually make the argument, and he does this a lot, that now you'll actually see it later in the video. Let's just continue, it's fine.
This is one aspect of many. So men tend to have larger lungs, men tend to have larger frames, men tend to have greater bone mineral density. Men tend to recover from exercise faster. Testosterone is a big player in your
Destiny is actually completely correct there. Yeah.
And your body's ability to recover. Sure. So there are a multitude of advantages that men have when it comes to training for athletic events and participating in athletic events for women. It's not just your ability to put on muscle. There are a great number of other physiological advantages as well, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, so all of this then, so my original statement that men are stronger than women, not by one standard deviation or whatever that means, that significantly on an aggregate and on average, men are quite stronger than women. That's true at an elite performance level or just on an average citizen level as well.
Yes, if you are not controlling for their size, I will absolutely 100% do that.
Even if you control for their size, men are going to be stronger. Women have to. There's no woman that cuts to 6% body fat. They can't do it. Women have to hold more fat in their body than men do. In fact, for women's women's menstrual cycles or period, or one of you guys jokingly alluded to, like, it's ridiculous that like a woman's ovaries would fall out or whatever if she cut to too low of body fat. But there are serious hormonal damages that happen to a woman's body if she does cut to too low of body fat, that men don't have to worry about. Now, men can cut to body fat to kill them too. 46% is really fucking hard to hold. But yeah, even at the same weight distribution, a man will still pound for pound be stronger than a woman because a man doesn't have to hold as much fat on his body as a woman does. Okay. So on an aggregate, we should be able to agree, and this fits as well with all the SJW narratives we're going to call as well. Like women are scared of men for a reason. Okay, sure. Okay. So this is something that is true. So my understanding of it, of what I've seen, and I've done very little research tonight in terms of digging on subjects. Okay, I've just been kind of going through the links you guys have posted and clicking in the chat. My understanding of it is that if you allow somebody to train as a man for a significant period of time and then transition into a woman to transition like the hormone replacement therapy or something later on, that the amount of time spent training as a biological male will confer an advantage to them.
Don't use that phrase.
As a cis male, I don't know what to call it. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm uncomfortable saying that a trans male.
I don't know if you caught that, but listen
male,
to it again. Like, it's pretty funny.
Or something later on, that the amount of time spent training as a biological male will confer an advantage to them.
Don't use that phrase.
Oh, this is the point we've gotten to, you know, like, you can't even use the word biological male without, like, these SJWs, like, telling you, oh no, like, biological male, that word is threatening to all the transsexuals out there that are not biological males, you know. They just hate science. Like, the second you bring up the word biology, they just freak out, you know. It's crazy, but yeah, let's see how he responds.
As a cis male, I don't know what you'd call it. I don't know.
Sure.
I'm uncomfortable saying that a trans male at
birth, that would, but it's a trans medicalist term, and that's my major concern with it.
Okay.
Oh, this verbiage is just triggering me. Like, it's crazy with this.
Got you.
They just use these, like, useless words that don't mean anything. It's just confusing.
So somebody that was able to train in a body that was assigned male at birth for a significant portion of their life, that is a trans individual that transitions to being a trans woman that undergoes hormone replacement therapy to do it, that they have enjoyed the benefits of training in a assigned at birth male body for a long period of time, and it seems
Yeah, all of this is trivial. Let's just skip past it.
like that might confer some athletic advantage on them. Now, I'm trying to find you have an
Yeah. Let's get to the juicy parts, you know.
hormone replacement therapy would make the structure of their skeleton. They might feel like I'm experiencing some dysmorphia because my shoulders are too broad, because the structure. I haven't been able to find like conclusive stuff because I love to argue trans issues, but I haven't been able to find this like silver bullet that's like, oh look, like damn, it's totally different. Like trans people, post transition are 100% on the same, if I can say biological or hormone playing field or athletic advantage playing field as cisgender women, and I haven't been able to see that kind of stuff.
Prene in my chat, what is this that you've linked me?
Some of the reasons why women have such a difficult position in society when it comes to things like dating, right? Like I would never tell a woman like, why are you scared of guys on Tinder? Like on average, you're gonna be about as strong as any guy you run into on Tinder. When every woman knows that's not true. Like these types of relationships can be really scary meeting strange men, and it's not because they're equal in strength. It's because there's usually like a huge power imbalance. Like that's one of the fears that women have when it comes to dating online. So it's a little strange to hear that well, in aggregate, everybody's about the same strength.
Now, when we're talking about elite sports performance, the best female performers and the best male performers don't end up being radically different in many different fields. But what we're talking about is the loss of performance when somebody transitions to being on female hormones, which...
Wait, what did he just say? Like, in the top performers, there's not a big difference between men and females? Well, that is just completely ridiculous. I'm hoping Destiny will point this out in a second. Let's see.
Every study that I am familiar with shows that all advantage has been eliminated at that point because trans athletes are not performing at the same level that they were before and end up falling below the curve compared to the same competitors that basically got used to their own bodies. My guess is this is a puberty reaction.
This is funny, like, now he's making, like, hypotheses about, why his position is true, but earlier he was, blaming Destiny for speculating. Speculating is allowed when it's, like, on your terms, like, it's what these people do. Let's see how he ends this off.
Where they're having to perform in a body they're only familiar with for the last couple of years, as opposed to somebody who's intimately familiar with their own body, what they can do, etc. But the argument that we are usually having, you're talking about averages and on aggregate, but what we're talking about when we talk about sports performance is the absolute elite actors in each of these fields.
So in the elite actors, you would actually be so many more degrees wrong than in the aggregate even. Because in the elite actors, there are no... Wait, you're
trans women outperforming cis women on the field.
Sure, and that might be possible. That might be...
Wait, this is so crazy, because earlier alebrelle was making the argument that, if you look at the distributions, the men have heavier tails on the distribution, Like, if you look here, like, the tails of men are greater, so, like, if you go more towards the extremes, the difference between the men and the women should just increase as it becomes more and more competitive. So it's really funny, like how these like people, they make these like arguments that they think are in their favor, but then they just bend the logic to fit some other narrative when it like doesn't suit their case. It's hilarious how stupid these people are. Let's continue, see how he ends this off.
That is the contention that we have right now. But the idea that in the elite level, men and women perform on similar levels is absolutely not true. It's not even remotely true. Like professional female teams will lose to college level athletes. Like it's for male athletes. Like there is a significant difference in the physiology between cis men and cis women. It's just not even remotely close. We don't have mixed martial arts like women and men fighting for a reason, even in the same weight class. Like we don't have a WNBA competing against a normal NBA. We don't do like American football. Like this is just not true. Like everything else is just remotely true.
When we're talking about trans female athletes outperforming cis females, the data does not bear that out in having ever really occurred. There is no trans takeover of sports, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
This is just stupid. Like, if you go into YouTube, you'll actually see the MMA. They let like a male in MMA fight against females, because he said he was like a female and like a man fighting women in UFC. Oh, here it is. Actually, no, this is probably copyrighted, so you have to look at that for your own.
What we're asking
ends up going to where a cis female's performance is.
Sure, but that's what we're kind of asking the question about. But the earlier question, so excuse me, so the earlier statement that at an elite level, men and women perform similarly is just absolutely not true. Now, whether or not trans women are going to quote unquote take over, cis female athletic events is something to be determined or something to be looking into. That's the issue that there is contention right now. However, just because trans women haven't done it yet doesn't necessarily mean they're failing to do so due to physiological reasons. There could be other barriers that prevent trans women from succeeding in sports, like the massive amount of discrimination that they face in other parts of their life. It could be that there are trans women who could incredibly outcompete cisgender women in sports, but they're just being discriminated at other levels, preventing them from making it through. I don't know if it's true or not, but that's like a potential hypothesis.
Right.
That's what we need data to
that
support.
Sounds like we're trying to reach for reasons that are otherwise indicated.
Nope, I'm not reaching any harder than you are. And right now, all of the indications indicate that there is a significant advantage to training in a more androgen.
You see here, Destiny did some speculation, and then alebrelle, oh no, they're just reaching. Like every time someone else is speculating, it's this reaching. Every time alebrelle speculates, it's just, oh, this is probably true. Yeah.
Sensitive testosterone producing body, which it tends to be assigned male at birth, versus a body that produces less testosterone and has less androgen sensitivity, which tends to be a female assigned at birth body, right? So
we make the assumptions that it seems to make sense, but the results have not borne that out.
wait, which results?
The results of trans athletes are not outperforming their cis counterparts when transitioning to female.
Yeah, but the issue I'm saying here is there might be other barriers to
there might be other issues, but we're talking about the best performers. We're talking about it happening frequently enough for there to be a population to be able to reasonably say these athletes are not outperforming their cis female counterparts.
No, that's not the question right now. The question isn't, are trans people currently outperforming cisgender people? We can look at the top scores or the top whatever in anything and determine that's probably not true. That doesn't seem to be the case. The question is whether or not a trans woman will have a biological advantage over a cis woman like a significant majority of the time. That's the question. And we can't determine that by just looking at who are the...
So here is the question. They agree that men, they have superior athletic abilities to females, right? And now they're asking the question. When a man says that he is a woman and takes like estrogen pills or something, like, is he gonna suddenly turn his body into a woman body where, like, suddenly, like, oh, the man is not stronger than the women? And obviously, like, this is just, yeah, of course, the trans woman or, like, the man is gonna be stronger than the woman. Like, this is just obvious. Like, yeah, let's see how he ends this off.
Currently top performers, because it's possible that trans women are discouraged from getting there due to other pressures before they even get to that level.
That might be the question that you are asking in potential good faith, but it is not the question that's being asked. The question that's being asked is, should we be letting men compete in women's sports?
Sure, which I guess is a more transphobic way of getting at the same question that I'm asking, which is, does a trans woman have a significant biological advantage over a cisgender woman? That's the question. Like, biologically speaking, is what we're asking, and that seems to be as of yet determined.
The question that we're asking is, should these people be treated as less than human?
No, that's...
Wait, what did he say? Let's listen to that again.
A cisgender woman. That's the question. Like, biologically speaking, is what we're asking, and that seems to be as of yet determined.
The question that we're asking is, should these people be treated as less than human?
Should they be treated? What's he talking about? Like, this goof. Let's listen to how Destiny responds.
No, that's... no?
That's our contention, yes. They should not be.
Well, so,
they should be allowed to compete in whatever category we're forcing them to compete in.
Okay, so that's a different argument, and there are interesting arguments to have here. So one problem that trans people expose about how we differentiate athletic divisions is that at the end of the day, we like to believe it's a meritocracy, but it's actually incredibly arbitrary. Even when it comes down to what we call a woman as a woman, on like a very fine biological basis, there are ways that this branch off in ways that most people don't even know, right? We present it in a highly simplified way in high school. Or like if we wanted to draw a distinction between men and women,
Let's just skip past this part because it's really boring and they're just saying nothing value, so...
The argument is that we might be able to invent some new athletic event that women are superior to men in. Like, this whole... Let people do things, we have to have some type of categorization in order to make these athletic events work.
Why?
Because if we don't, then every single athletic contender is going to be male. Then females just don't get to compete in sports anymore. Nobody's going to watch them. Nobody's going to want to do anything.
Oh, this is true. If you don't have, like, grids of, like, oh, women's sport and male sport, like, divisions, like, the males are just going to dominate everything, right?
I disagree that would be the case.
That's fine that you...
Wait, he disagrees with this. That's crazy, you know? Because earlier, alebrelle, like, he said that men, they have heavier tails on the almost everything, right? Like the distribution, if you look at like athletic performance, IQ, jail time, like how many grapes you eat, like everything. Like males, they have a greater standard deviation, like the distribution has heavier tails. And even alebrelle knows this. It's really strange, actually, that like he's doing the thing again where he's just bending the narrative to his will. This guy, like, he doesn't care about logic. He's also bald. He has a big beard and he's fat. Look at this guy. He even has glasses. Like, you think he's like he's really stupid as well. Let's see how this continues.
You disagree,
Women are
but
physically better at certain things than
I
men
think
are.
it's possible.
Certain things, like what's he saying? Or is he saying like there exists like two tasks that like women are better at? Like, what is he saying? Like, it's really stupid. Even like, yeah, let's see how he defends this.
Well, they might be
the
superior. No,
sports
that's
that
not
we
true.
prefer right now
Wait.
is because we have picked the things that men are best at to compete at physically.
Okay, so I think there might be one form of distance running. I think that women might be superior than men. I think, or maybe gymnastics, like the 2-bar or whatever. There are some things that women might be better, but for the vast majority of sports, men insanely outclass women. And
in the vast majority of sports that we have performed since the beginning of time, only valuing men as athletic performers, they outperform women.
yes, but you're
Oh, there it comes. The argument. You guys heard what he said? He's making the argument that women are like better at like the same amount of things as men, but we only choose the sports that like men are good at. So all the sports that women are good at, like we don't, they don't exist, is what he's saying. But like Destiny and like me myself, I agree with that, right? I don't think the sports that women are better at, I don't think they exist, but I don't think they exist because like we're sexist or we're not choosing like the sports they're good at. I just think they don't exist because men are just better at everything. Like this, he's saying that like, sports is sexist because we only like choose the sports that men are better at to focus on in society, which is just crazy. Let's see how he defends this.
arguments that there might be
why
like
that would occur.
yeah, but your argument is that we might be able to invent some new athletic event that women are superior to men in. Like this whole argument relies on the
my
invention of another
argument is
sport.
that we have an arbitrary value over the sports performance of certain people doing certain like there's so many abstract layers of arbitrary preference in this that
So many abstract layers of arbitrary preference. Like this guy thinks he's so smart that you're saying stupid words to defend this position, even though it doesn't mean anything. Like, let's listen to how he defends this.
why does it matter in the least how fair things are in these sorts of competitions? I'm going to take the take that you're going to fucking hate at this point. If we just allowed people to compete for fun and removed the capitalist incentive behind these sorts of competitions, we wouldn't need to have this discussion.
Here it comes. Oh, it's capitalism's fault. By the way, this guy is a communist as well. Like, this has to be the best take of the fucking century, right? Oh, men are better at sport because capitalism is incentivizing the sexist profit men. Patriarchy is making females bad at sports because the profit incentive makes them do this. We have like everything in one basket here. We have sexism, patriarchy, capitalism is bad, everything. This alebrelle guy is just insane. Like, listen to this, like shit. Like, it's just crazy. Let's listen to how he defends this.
So, when the Greeks did like athletics, was that like pre-capitalism, like bubbling up to the surface, or like athletic competition has been like part of like humanity since probably the
Women
dawn
were
of
treated
mankind?
as full fucking humans when the Greeks had the Olympics.
You're ignoring my point. You're trying to say that like athletic drives the
No,
drive to do
I'm saying
things.
that they were not allowed to compete.
But
they were not seen
men
as people
competed.
that were capable of
the
doing.
Olympics,
yeah, men
right?
competed.
So men
Yeah.
competed in the Olympics before
They did.
capitalism. Getting rid of capitalism is going to get rid of athletic competition.
Right. Getting rid of patriarchal arbitrary nonsense, saying that only the things that men are good at are the things that we should value and allow to happen, is the problem that has occurred. We're talking about an entire.
I'm really curious. Like, if this guy only thinks men are better at sport because we just nitpick all the fucking sports that men are better at. Like, can he present some examples of what kind of sports that women would excel at? Can he give us all of these non-existent sports that the women are actually good at? Like, let's see, like, I'm really curious if you have some.
Human race's existence of preferring what men are capable of doing and finding out what men are best at doing men things.
Sure,
And
I don't necessarily
saying that women have to compete in the same exact things, and it's just, it's
I don't
mind-numbing.
necessarily disagree that the selection of what we consider to be athletic events is going to be biased towards what men are already good at because society seems to be ran by male interests, right? If we go into patriarchy theory, which I generally agree with. However, the dismantling of the entire patriarchy, and then we don't even know if there are athletic events that could be invented that women are superior at to men. Like this is like such an out there argument that I don't even think it's worth considering when trans people today need to consider like what is, or when we all need to consider what are the places of trans people in sports today. Like the answer to that question can be, well, once we dismantle patriarchy and capitalism, we'll be able to answer that. Like we need answers before that.
But you were talking about what about in the future, because right now they're not outperforming their cis female counterparts. You wanted to talk about the future, so I wanted to talk about the future. Right now, trans femme performance in elite sports is not a problem.
Okay.
So are we talking about the future, or are we not?
I'm sorry, when I was talking about the future, I mean like the next like 5 to 10 years, not 250 years into the future when capitalism
but you also were conjecturing. You were saying maybe we end up seeing them outperforming. We haven't yet. We have no reason to believe that they will. If we're going to talk about the future, we may as well talk about the future that allows them to perform as the people that they are.
So my plan is that biomechanically, we have every reason to believe that they would outperform their cis counterparts. Like, that seems to be the case biomechanically. That's to be
we're really bad at science in general. We're
pretty
so
good
bad
at
at understanding how the body does a lot of the shit that it does.
Oh, here it comes. It's just no alebrelle doing though. Everything's just so complicated. We have no understanding of how anything works. Like, it's so funny, this guy, like, when the science is on his side, he is like, oh yeah, look at the science, it obviously agrees with me. When the science disagrees, he's like very skeptical. He's like, oh yeah, it's so complicated, we can't really say whether it's like valid. Like, humans are so bad at science, it's so hard to tell. Yeah, it's crazy, like, science real or science fake? Like, depends on your perspective. Yeah, let's see how he backs this up with this ridiculous argument.
We're only barely beginning to understand dietary
science. This is kind of a misunderstanding of how like medicine in general or understanding biological processes work. Just because we don't understand how a process works doesn't mean we can't speak about the effects of a certain process.
Sure.
So like this same argument that you're giving, I could use to say like, well, we shouldn't give SSRIs to people because we don't know fuck all about how the brain works, and we have a very poor understanding of how neurochemical works, about how serotonin and dopamine works. We just know that there are certain drugs. It seems like we give to people. It seems like it generally helps their mood. Okay, but just because we don't know how it works doesn't mean we can't make a broad statement. Like, it's actually really hard to even describe the process of building muscle. That's a very, very hard. I don't even know if medical scientists can fully understand and describe that process all the way down to like a fundamental cellular level, like from start to finish. I don't think that's like fully been described yet. But we still know how to build muscle, right? We still know what muscle does. We still know like there are good ways to build it and bad ways to build it. So we can make the same statements about so we can still make the same statements about trans people. Like, we might not know the underlying like biomechanical explanation or description of every single hormone in the body or whatever, but we can still make some broad statements. People that produce a lot of androgen and have androgen sensitivity are going to be more athletic than people that produce less androgen and have lower androgen sensitivity, right? That's so extreme that, as you correctly mentioned earlier, you can have people with XY chromosomes who are actually presented completely once people think they're women, or most people call them like cis women, even though they have an XY chromosome because they have no.
Oh, there Destiny goes again. Like, he usually does this. I agree with Destiny's points overall, right? But this is just like, he's being a bad side actor here. He's just rambling on, doing his usual fast talking, saying gish galloping, like doing a lot of stuff. Like, if you guys didn't catch it, I actually cut 2 strawmans in what he just said, but yeah, like, he does this all the time. Let's see how he ends this off.
Sensitivity at all. So yeah, I mean, like, there are statements that we can make about like how things work, even if we don't understand underpinnings about every single part of it works.
Sure. So let's go ahead and take a hard turn over this one, because I don't think we're getting anywhere here, and you know a lot more about this shit than I do. Let's talk about Caster Semenya for a minute.
Sure.
Wait, what did he say?
Shit than I do. Let's talk about Caster Semenya for a minute. You're roughly familiar with her?
My understanding of that, and I'm worried that I have read wrong stuff, but my understanding is that she is a cis woman that just produces and has much higher androgen sensitivity than most like cis women, and so people were talking about barring her from competition as a result.
Has been barred from competition unless she undergoes hormone therapy to change her.
Oh yeah, I remember this. This is some famous athlete, female, that just had like a lot of like hormones or something, and it made her really good at performing. So people thought it was unfair, and they wanted her to go through hormone therapy to like make it more fair, even though she's like a female with XX chromosomes. Let's see how he responds.
Yeah. Why is she a magical exception all of a sudden? Partially, I'm going to give you the answer here, is because she's black.
Okay.
I'm just saying, why isn't she allowed to compete? She's a cis woman. Why are we telling her that her body is wrong? Why is it?
Yeah, black. They have blacks, females are more they remind you of males, you know. Let's see how he responds.
She allowed to do everything that the side that you're trying to argue right now? Why isn't she allowed to take her human exceptionalism and to compete fairly against other women? Until we answer that question,
So the
I
answer
don't
to that
know.
question is very simple. The answer to the question is that differentiating competitive athletic sports only by a very crude understanding of biological sex is probably not a good way to separate divisions in athletic events. That's the answer, right?
Sure. Okay,
But
so let's stop using that system.
yeah, but the only thing is that if you're going to say we have to stop using that system, you're going to have to admit that we can't just let everybody do whatever, because then women are going to have no.
Oh, fuck. This problem is so simple. Just put XY chromosome in the XY chromosome athletic category, put XX chromosome in the XX chromosome category, and all the other chromosomes can have their own category, you know. Just makes all of it so simple, like, you know. Sex is like so easy to define once you just do it scientifically. Like, all these people are blurring the lines. Oh, this woman is more hormones, you know. It's just stupid. Like, it's so simple. Like, why these people think they're so smart by making everything complicated, even though it isn't. But yeah, let's see how they respond.
Cis women or trans women probably have almost no representation in athletic events everywhere. So we need to figure out something, and it's hard, especially, and it's probably good, even that trans people are making us think about these things more, because even if we got rid of all the trans people, somehow we waved the magic sort of one, these are still probably good questions to think about, right? Are sports done on a meritocracy basis? You guys correctly identified Michael Phelps, for instance, has a body that physiologically makes him far more adept at swimming than another type of cis male. Do we divide for those types of bodies? Like, these are good questions to ask.
This is just repeating.
Okay, then we're going to go ahead and part ways here then.
Okay.
Well, let's see how they end it.
Thanks, I appreciate the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. I am sorry that much more educated on this subject than I am.
alebrelle just takes the L. What the fucking loser, dude.
It's something of thought. I've fucking lost it already. My chat keeps trying to feed me information. I'm only barely able to skim. Have a good night, Steven.
Have a good one.
Oh boy.
Okay. All right. Well, we tried. The numbers I was pulling before, fuck, I don't know what chart this was using, or fuck, whatever one. The first one I pulled for like novice.
Yeah, there we have it. So, who won this debate? Obviously, Destiny won, right? Alebrelle is so stupid. All these points are just ridiculous. You know, it doesn't make any sense. No, yeah, Destiny took this one like easy. Okay, that's it for this video, guys. Logical Viking here, out.